Perfect. The way I eat it,
We're
no
live.
business for that to be right.
Yeah.
We'll call our meeting to order tonight here on August the 10th, 2023. If you'd all please stand, we'll pledge allegiance to our flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right. Thank you all for being here. Brian, if you would do our roll call, please.
Nancy,
Here.
Jeremy, here. Kelly Cornett,
Here.
Kelly Campbell,
Here.
and Bink.
Here.
And Mike is out.
Mike Mays is not here tonight. He mentioned that at our last meeting. We would need to have a motion to excuse him if that's what you choose.
Do we have a reason?
He's on vacation.
Oh,
Motion to excuse.
By Kelly, we have a Kelly Campbell. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Second by Jeremy. Let's do a roll call vote, please.
Nancy,
yes.
Jeremy,
Yes.
Kelly Cornett,
Yes.
Kelly Campbell,
Yes.
and Bink.
Yes. Very good. There's some appointments that we need to fill. Kelly Campbell has agreed to be on the Zoning Board of Appeals, so we thank that very much. Do we need to take any formal action in regard to that other than approval by council?
It's a council appointment.
Okay, well, it's actually my appointment, I believe, but I think they need to approve.
Okay, then they just need to vote to approve the appointment.
Okay,
Do we
so,
need a motion or?
yeah, I want to nominate him, so someone could make a motion to approve him as.
I'll make that motion.
By Nancy, do we have a second? Second by Bink. Let's do a roll call vote, please.
Nancy,
Yes.
Jeremy,
Yes.
Kelly Cornett,
Yes.
Kelly Campbell, and Bink.
Yes. Now, also on our tax review board, there are 3 appointments to be done, 2 by council, 1 by myself. So I'm going to start out, we've asked Brian Futt to be my appointee to the tax review board. So once again, we would need a motion to that effect.
And you set his length,
Okay.
term length there.
It's forever. Do we know what the others are?
2, the other 2 are 2.
Okay, so are they up right now too?
Yeah, they're okay.
Okay, so if we could do perhaps a 3-year term, are you up to that, Brian? Okay, so for Brian Futt, it would be a 3-year term. So we would need a motion to approve that.
I so move.
By Brian, do we have a second?
I'll second.
By Nancy, let's do a roll call vote, please.
Nancy,
Yes.
Jeremy,
Yes.
Kelly,
Yes.
Kelly,
Yes.
and Bink.
Yes. Now there are 2 council appointments that have been brought to the attention of Art and myself. One would be Jay Hanselman, and the other one would be Brian Ernst. I don't know if all of you know them. Jay was a council member years ago. He's been on several of our committees, and Brian Ernst is with Merchants National Bank, isn't he, Kelly?
Mhm.
And these would be people that would be on that tax review board. So we would need a motion to adopt them if that's what we so choose to do.
Those are 2-year terms.
Are those
They're
2?
both the 2-year.
2-year terms. Okay, by Bink, do we have a second?
Second.
By Kelly Cornett. Let's do a roll call vote.
Nancy,
Yes.
Jeremy,
Yes.
Kelly Cornett,
Yes.
Kelly Campbell,
Yes.
and Bink.
Yes. Very good. All right, we'll go into our public comment time. At this time, we have one person in our audience. Chris, would you like to address council? Please introduce yourself to our streaming audience, and you have up to 5 minutes.
It's on.
All right. This will be real quick. I just wanted to publicly thank Nancy for reaching out to me directly about the issue I brought up at the last council meeting with the nuisance animals. She called me. We, told me it's being looked at and kind of went above and beyond. Thank you for that. And that's all I got. Thank you.
Thank you, Chris.
Thank you, Chris.
Would you like a cookie?
Cookies.
Oh, okay. We'll go into our general business section. On page 1 of your packet is our regular session of council meetings from July the 13th. And these are being approved because I think there were some revisions to that. Is that correct, Brian?
Yes, we added Jeremy's name into one space and added some comments from Kelly on Mike's roundtable comments.
So this is for your review and approval, unless there are other corrections or additions, deletions that need to be made.
I'll make the motion to approve the July 13th meetings.
Okay,
minutes.
very good by Nancy. Do we have a second?
Second.
By Kelly. Again, let's do a roll call.
Nancy,
Yes.
Jeremy,
Yes.
Kelly Cornett,
Yes.
Kelly Campbell,
Yes.
and Bink.
Yes.
Also in your packet, page 5 is our meeting minutes from our regular session on July the 27th. And so the same thing needs to be done. Are there any corrections, deletions, corrections, errors in here that need to be addressed?
I make a motion to approve.
By Kelly Cornett, do we have a second? By Bink? Or is that, oh, Kelly, I'm sorry, Kelly Cornett, or two Kellys. So let's do a roll call vote, please.
Nancy,
Yes.
Jeremy,
Yes.
Kelly Cornett,
Yes.
Kelly Campbell,
Yes.
and Bink.
Yes.
Very good. On page 11 of your packet is the Budget Committee summary minutes, and it's for you to look through, and if there's questions, you can bring them up because the committee members are here tonight. Is there anything in there, or any of the committee members wish to discuss anything in that meeting? If there isn't, then they are for your review, and you can contact any of those members for any additional detail. On page 11, or excuse me, page 12 of your packet is a supplemental appropriation. I'm going to let Art discuss this one. This is in regards to electrical department.
Yes, this is a supplemental to replace our supply of pad mount three-phase and single-phase transformers for the electric department. We had a couple blow on us, and the cost is absorbing it, and then it's gone. We've got a couple transformers that have gone up 375% in price in 2 years. But this is this appropriation or supplemental appropriation is just to move the money around so we can pay for these, and they won't be buying poles and stuff. We're taking it out of what he'd already had stocked. So that's what it is.
Kelly Cornett, would you read this by title only, please?
An ordinance making a supplemental appropriation for the Village of Georgetown, Brown County, Ohio.
Discussion or questions? If there is none, then we would make a motion to adopt.
So moved.
By Kelly Cornett, do we have a second? By Bink, let's do a roll call vote.
Nancy,
Yes.
Jeremy,
Yes.
Kelly Cornett,
Yes.
Kelly Campbell,
Yes.
and Bink.
Yes.
That's 1348.
Okay, on page 13 is our second reading of an ordinance that we have an agreement with ODOT to take care of the roads during the winter, salt and all that type of stuff. So Kelly, take a deep breath. If you could read this by title only, please.
All right. Approval and granting consent to the Director of the Ohio Department of Transportation Authority to apply, maintain, and repair standard longitudinal pavement markings and erect regulatory and warning signs on state highways inside village corporate limits, and giving consent of the village for the Ohio Department of Transportation to remove snow and ice and use snow and ice control material on state highways inside the village corporation limits, and giving consent of the village for the Ohio Department of Transportation to perform maintenance and/or repair on state highways inside the village corporation.
Any questions? Comments?
Could we hear that again? I'm not sure. No? Okay, all right. I'm good. I'm okay.
Go a little slower with it, Kelly, if you want.
That's right. That's right.
Okay, if there are no questions, we would need a motion to adopt.
I'll move to adopt.
By Nancy, do we have a second? By Kelly Campbell, let's do a roll call vote.
Nancy,
Yes.
Jeremy,
Yes.
Kelly Cornett,
Yes.
Kelly Campbell, and Bink.
Yes.
That is 1349.
Also on page 16, it's somewhat related to the previous appropriation for the electric department. But it is an intra-fund transfer. So Kelly, if you would read this by title only, then I'll turn this over to Art.
An ordinance providing for the intra-fund transfers within the Village of Georgetown, Brown County, Ohio.
Okay, we had the 5301-510 000, that was the land and improvement. We had 50,000 budgeted in there, but we're not going to be doing anything out of that fund. So we're going to inter-fund transfer those over to the 5301-420 000 account to finish the other half of the payment for those pad transformers.
So this 50,000 is actually going to be part of the 85,000? Is that
Yes.
correct? Okay. Okay. Any questions, comments? If not, then we need a motion to adopt.
So moved.
By Kelly Cornett. Do we have a second?
Second.
By Nancy?
Nancy got it.
By Nancy? Okay.
Yes.
Let's do a roll call vote.
Nancy,
Yes.
Jeremy,
Yes.
Kelly Cornett.
Yes.
Kelly Campbell.
Yes.
And Bink.
Yes.
1350.
Also in your packet on page 17 is an ordinance for the pay for Ohio Police and Fire for Chief Robert Freeland. Let's read this by title only, then we'll let Joe go into any information that we need to have for that. So Kelly, if you would read that, please, page 17.
An ordinance that authorizes the Village of Georgetown to pick up a portion of the statutorily required employee contribution to the Ohio Police and Fire Fund for the village police chief pursuant to section 742.31 of the Ohio Revised Code and section 414H2 of the Internal Revenue Code and declaring an emergency.
Joe.
Thank you. Just so you know, as you'll recall at the last council meeting, actually, was it the last one or the one before that, actually? Council indicated that they wanted to move forward with this. I think I indicated at the time that traditionally what we do is we send this to the retirement fund. It rattles around up in Columbus. They look at the language and decide how they want it to read such that it will be clear to them who's paying what. We adjusted that to reflect the amount we talked about when we came out of executive session. It now reads that way. I do want to suggest one amendment in reading it, though. After it came back in section 3, it reads, under the fringe benefit method of employer pickup, salary is not modified. However, the employer will pay the employee's statutorily required contribution to OPNF fund. I think that should read, will pay a portion of, and that's consistent with what it says in section 2. So just so there's no issues, and because we typically use these as a template in the future, I think that would be more clear. So I would suggest that maybe before adoption, you amend it to include those 3 words. The other thing I would let you know is that just so you're aware, because Natalie asked me to make you aware, if you do increase the chief's salary next year, you'll need to readopt this to reflect that change, assuming that you want to keep the same dollar amount versus a percentage. And we'll remind you of that if there's an adjustment made in the chief's salary.
So can this be passed tonight with these amended words in
Yes.
there?
It can, and if you choose to add that, you can. I just think it makes it a little more clear, and because it's an emergency, it would go into effect.
Kelly, did you read this by title only?
Yes,
Okay.
I did.
She did.
Okay.
Do we need a motion to include
Yeah.
these words and then a
Yeah,
motion?
it'd be my
to
preference
accept?
that you do a motion to amend it to include those, and then a motion to adopt.
I'll make the motion to include a portion of to be added to that.
That is a motion by Nancy. Do we have a second on that?
Second.
By Jeremy. Let's do a roll call on that.
Nancy,
Yes.
Jeremy.
Yes.
Kelly Cornett.
Yes.
Kelly Campbell.
Yes.
Bink.
Yes.
So then we would need a motion to pass the amended ordinance on this particular item.
I'll make a motion.
Okay, by Kelly Campbell,
I'll second.
by Bink. Let's do a roll call vote, please.
Nancy,
Yes.
Jeremy.
Yes.
Kelly Cornett.
Yes.
Kelly Campbell.
Yes.
Bink.
Yes.
And that's 1351.
And that will begin with the September 18th pay period ending September 18th.
Okay, on page 19 is a ordinance for the sale of vehicles that we have here. So Kelly, if you would read this by title, please.
An ordinance authorizing the sale of personal property by internet auction and declaring an emergency.
Art, you or Chief, do you wish to talk about this at all?
I know the 2008 Nissan is one that we have confiscated. The Tahoe I know is Joey's old staff car. And this is just one of the village mowers, but
It's the cemetery.
okay, the cemetery mower. The only thing that I'll need if I'm the one putting it online is some very descriptive, including any faults that these vehicles have before they go online.
So this will go on what, Gov Deals?
Correct.
Okay. If you're not familiar with Gov Deals, that's how we can vend surplus or acquired.
Just as a side note, me and Art, we started to set down the last few sales of these to have a reserve to make sure we're going to get X amount before it goes.
Okay, so is there any questions in regards to the sale of this personal property? So we would, if that's to be had, we need to adopt the ordinance. Is there a motion to that effect?
I move.
By Jeremy, do we have a second?
Second.
By Kelly Cornett, let's do a roll call.
Nancy.
Yes.
Jeremy.
Yes.
Kelly Cornett.
Yes.
Kelly Campbell. Bink.
Yes.
It's 1352.
Okay, there's a couple of resolutions on page 72 and 74. They're annexations of, I'm sorry, no, we're, scratch letter I, that has been scratched from tonight's packet.
Okay.
Section J is the annexation of the 68 equity property. This is the former Carter lumber property. Art, you know a little bit more if you want to talk about it.
Yeah, we've been working with Joe to move that property in. Mr. Zawaki bought the property several months ago, and the first thing he wanted to do was bring it into the village. He's currently in the process of getting the engineering done to tie into our sewer system, and he has some pretty good plans for some growth out there. You'll notice he's started painting buildings, redid the parking lot, paving. He's going to clean out the front of it, and he asked to become part of our village, and we've been working to get this done. So this is what this is tonight.
Okay, Kelly, would you want to read this by title only, please?
A resolution setting forth services that will be provided by the Village of Georgetown to the owners and residents of real property located in Pleasant Township, Brown County, if such area is annexed to the Village of Georgetown, and stating an approximate date by which such services will be available if annexed.
Any questions or comments?
I just want for the new members of council, for their benefit, anytime the village is annexing property, after the filing of the petition, the ORC requires us to adopt this resolution, which says that we assure will provide these services to the property if it comes into the village. Then the commissioners will vote after a certain period of time, up to 45 days. Assuming that they approve the annexation, then you'll have to cast another vote to then accept the land that they've approved for annexation. So this is the first of two pieces of legislation that you'll see on both these properties in the next 45 to 50 days.
Isn't it also, it has to be given an opportunity for the township trustees to look at as well?
Yeah, and they've been notified. My office notified them when we filed it. And this is the type of annexation that there's really not much of an objection to because it's a type 2. But yes, they're always given that opportunity.
Any other questions, comments? If not, we need a motion to adopt this resolution.
So moved.
By Kelly Cornett, do we have a second?
Second.
By Jeremy. Let's do a roll call vote, please.
Nancy.
Yes.
Jeremy.
Yes.
Kelly Cornett.
Yes.
Kelly Campbell. Bink.
Yes.
It's 1340.
Then on page 74 of your packet is a resolution very similar to the one we just did, except on two other parcels on the south end of town, the Schweikert property and the Patridge property. They're basically at the last properties before we go out of the corporation limit, or they will be the end of the corporation limit. So once again, Kelly, could you read it by title only?
A resolution setting forth services that will be provided by the Village of Georgetown to the owners and residents of real property located in Pleasant Township, Brown County, if such area is annexed to the Village of Georgetown, and stating an approximate date by which such services will be available if annexed.
Any questions? Joe, same things apply to it as did the previous one. Any questions, comments? If there are none, then we need a motion to adopt this resolution. By Nancy, do we have a second? Second by Kelly Cornett. Once again, roll call.
Nancy,
Yes.
Jeremy,
Yes.
Kelly Cornett,
Yes.
Kelly Campbell, Bink.
Yes.
It's 1341.
Can I borrow your minutes? Give me another 7 minutes. I didn't print off all of them. Okay, we'll go from items from the staff. Our payment listing is on page 76. If you have questions in regard to that, Art can probably satisfy most everything that's on here. If not, then we can get to Natalie in regard to any questions you may have. Any questions? If not, we can move on. And again, these are questions that you can always ask our fiscal officer, Natalie Newberry. Or if Art has the time, he can also help you with these questions. Okay, on page 78 is our payment register, the detail. For the credit cards, I'm sorry.
A lot of those are from cakes and all that has been refunded, correct?
Yes.
Other questions? We can move on to page 81 is our fund summary report. For the new members, this is probably the most difficult one to grasp, but as time goes on, everything should fall into place. It shows what our starting balance was and what our current balance is, and what's encumbered and what's unencumbered. And again, any of these line items that you have questions for, this would be best explained by Natalie or Art. If there's any right at the moment you wish to know about, we could ask them now. Okay, well, then we will move on. On page 82 is our bank reconciliation statement. And on page 83 is our mayor's court report. Chief, do you have any report about mayor's court at this time? It's up? Well, either people aren't behaving themselves or there's just a lot more activity by the department. So it could be a little bit of both.
When you see our statistics and you see the traffic stop numbers, I'd say it'll probably make sense.
Well, if there's no questions there, we'll go right into the police report. So Chief Freeland, if you want to go ahead.
I just said our citations are up and mayor's court activities up. As you can see, and it usually floats around this most months, 228 traffic stops in the month of July. It's hard to believe that many people even come through town in a month, not alone that many got stopped, but we have a lot more people come through this town than you think we do.
They're either eager to come in or they're eager to get out. I don't know.
They're very eager. There's a lot of speeding tickets. But another thing that was a little high in July, if you'll see on the first page, about 3/4 of the way down, the hit and runs, we had 5 of them in July, which is an unusual number for us. I know out of those 5, I believe 3 were solved, so it's not bad odds. As a matter of fact, I'll be talking about one of those after we go over the statistics here. But altogether, including the traffic stops, we had 586 different types of calls in July. And then as usual, on the other page is the offenses that we dealt with and how many of those that we dealt with in July.
Questions about the chief's stats here?
I have a question. Reckless operation 10,
Yes.
and I know in the past we've had 10, 14 every month, which seems like a lot to me. What part of the village are those in usually?
Those are, we get a lot of those, and it's usually people that are coming in town. Let's just say they're between here and Hamersville, they're between here and Russellville, and they're behind somebody that they think's driving erratically or maybe passing everybody on double yellow lines, things like that. You know, they'll call dispatch and say, hey, there's a car headed your way. You know, you might want to stop it and check them out. You know, so that happens it seems like almost on a daily basis, but yeah, usually around rush hour time, stuff like that. So
That makes sense. The last few months have noticed how many there are, and I thought.
Any
That
other
makes sense.
questions for the chief's report? Okay.
just first off, I wanted to thank you guys for passing that ordinance. And the other thing is I want to thank, there's actually a lot of people in this room I'd like to thank for helping out with the National Night Out. It was held on August the 1st, and it was possibly one of our best turnouts so far. I want to thank the Eagles for allowing us to use their property, Jesse Green, Carol Meyer, and all that put their time and effort into to make the event possible. Mr. Bellamy for his DJ services, all the businesses, churches for setting up booths and donating school supplies. I would also like to thank the fire department, the Life Squad for coming out as well. There are many people behind the scenes that made this event possible as well. Again, a big thank you to everyone involved. We actually, let's see here, on the 7th, we had a man with a gun call. Patrolman Pendleton and Captain Staggs and a couple of deputies responded to a residence on South Apple Street, which is just right around the corner here, in reference to a disturbance possibly involving a gun. Upon arrival, 4 parties were on scene and secured until backup could arrive. It was determined that the argument began outside of the home between 2 men and over a woman who was also on the scene. When the woman's brother heard the commotion, he walked outside with the shotgun and racked it to get everybody's attention to stop fighting and arguing. He had put the shotgun back in the house before officers arrived. After speaking with everyone on the scene, it was found that one of the men who tried to hide his identity from the officers and gave false information. He was identified as a Stephen Herndon, who had a warrant for his arrest. Mr. Herndon was also found to have a gun in his possession, which was seized by the officers. Mr. Herndon is a felon, so in turn, he was also charged for having the weapon under disability. Also filed charges for falsification for giving false information to the officers. The other male was cited for disorderly conduct. However, even though he produced a shotgun, it was not loaded, and he never pointed at anybody or made any threats. The brother was not charged with anything. And then we had another one where it was just a threat of a gun, which turned out not to be. There was a subject that was called dispatch and was basically saying he wanted to commit suicide by cop. That was on the 19th of July. Patrolman Luther responded to the residents on East Grand Avenue for a possible overdose. Upon contact, the man had made several threats to the officer that if he came any closer, he was going to take his gun from him. The man advised that dispatch that he is bigger than the officer and he will take his gun and he will have to kill me. Patrolman Luther backed out of the call and waited for backup. Deputies, the Veterans Police, and myself responded. Upon my arrival, the man had advised officers that he had a gun and they would have to kill him. He continued to advise dispatchers that the officers will have to kill him and he is ready to die. After several attempts to talk the man out of the house and de-escalate the situation, the man's son advised that there were no guns in the house and that his dad could not have a gun. After much debate, we decided to stack up and make an entrance into the home with both lethal and non-lethal weapons. The man surrendered immediately and was secured and treated by the Life Squad and transported to the hospital for medical and mental health treatment by the Georgetown EMS and Patrolman Luther. So that ended the best way it possibly could have. And I did not mention his name because, again, he was suffering with some mental health issues. On the 23rd of July, this is one of our hit skips, Patrolman Ramel and Captain Staggs responded to Paul Hall and Associates on East State Street, in reference to a one-car accident involving a utility pole. Upon arrival, officers were advised by witnesses that the man driving the car was seen running south from the scene. Captain Staggs went to locate the driver while Patrolman Ramel remained on scene to deal with the crash scene. While checking the vehicle, several items were located to suggest drug use. Captain Staggs soon advised that he had located the male, took him into custody, and transported him back to the scene, advising that he had found additional drug paraphernalia on his person. After refusing medical treatment, the man was identified as Tyler Fulton, who was given sobriety testing by Patrolman Ramel and arrested for OVI, leaving the scene of an accident in possession of drug abuse instruments. There are additional charges pending from another jurisdiction for theft of the motor vehicle that he was driving. And that is all I have. It was an active month.
I think that's enough. And any questions or comments to the chief? Okay. Chief Rocky, do you have anything for council?
Just two things, Dale. First thing is, I just wanted to thank all the kids and everyone that come out to the little splash party yesterday. I think they had a lot of fun. We wanted to thank Sean Enlow for bringing his snow cone booth up. We served just a little over 150 snow cones, and that was reserved for kids. So there was a few kids there. And then obviously I really wanted to thank Wade and Lori Highlander from Parker's because they contacted me and wanted to pay for the event. So they paid for all the snow cones and things that we served up. So that was, the kids enjoy it. I think I don't know why that water was ice cold, but they had a good time. The only other thing is on the payment listing, there was $3,360 expenditure to Vogelpool Fire, and that was for a set of new turnout gear for a new part-time guy we got. That set, and then I'm going to be ordering 2 more sets this week. That'll be the same cost, but all those will be paid for under a $10,000 equipment grant we secured through the state fire marshal's office. So we'll be reimbursed for those. So you'll sometimes see a $10,000 deposit come through. So just so when you see those big expenditures, know they're all paid for. So we got lucky. So
Anything else, Chief?
no, that's it.
Any questions for Chief Rocky? Okay, very good. All right, we can go on then. Art, do you want to give a report at this point in time, or do you want to?
Jeremy needs to connect to the screen, Rob.
Oh, you're on the, okay. What I'm going to talk to you about is what we've been talking about for a couple of years now, and is this water barn situation. We put this out, the new building out for bids. We got one bidder. We scrapped the bids and started over. We ended up with 3, and hopefully the next meeting, I'll be able to bring that to you guys so we can award the best and lowest bid. But I want to talk to you about this portion of this first. We had a discussion in the Utilities Committee meeting on this, and I'm going to go over a couple slides here. We had this all appraised. Well, the appraisal on this building came back at $100,000 if we remediate the entire building, which we have no cost what the remediation would be on it. It would be expensive, but we don't have any cost estimates on it. So $100,000 with the remediation done. He didn't give any kind of a value to the building in the condition it is in now. You can go ahead, Jeb.
Although, Art, I just say real quickly, was it 2 years ago?
Yeah.
Should we even mention that?
Yeah, we can. We had remediation estimates a couple years ago but I don't remember the numbers. Jeremy thought they were higher than what I did. I thought they were somewhere in the $50,000 range to remediate it, but he seems to remember it being higher.
just to help you contextualize, like what it would, how much we'd have to spend to even get that amount of money. Yeah, like, sorry, Art.
Oh, that's okay. You can go to the next one. This is the empty lot just to the right of the water building, and there's nothing on it, but that appraisal's at 33,000. Now you see the brown barn inside the fence next to this lot. This is what I've been waiting on, was this assessment for the electric grid. That they finally went out last week, looked, did some measuring based on what we're gonna have to do to that substation in order to bring the Georgetown electric grid up to standard. It's gonna require more land. So they are actually, Structure Point's actually advised us not to sell that brown barn and that closed-in portion because we're gonna need that land when we upgrade that substation, unless we're willing to go across the street and try to buy the land across the street. So, I mean, that doesn't really make sense to me. And I'll tell you, they didn't get here this week. Kelly's gonna make a call to them, but the township trustees had approached me several times about this.
They
And I
want
was-
to meet, they
Huh?
want to meet tomorrow.
They do want to meet? Okay. So I'll meet with them tomorrow to see if they would be interested in just these two parcels or what they've got in their minds. But what I really wanted from council tonight is for you guys to just verbally tell me it's okay to move on with some type of plan to liquidate and sell these properties, whether that be a bidding process or a sell to the township or a transfer to some other entity. I don't know yet. I'll talk to Joe and move through all this. But is there any interest at all of remodeling that building or remediating that building?
No.
So just a voice vote, I guess, is just to.
Well, I thought we already did this. Didn't we decide on a voice vote to go ahead and move towards selling it, or?
I don't remember it, and one of the committee members that's not here, or the councilman that's not here tonight doesn't remember that either. So I just want to I want to just be clean and hear
Do
it
we want a
again.
motion or just a vote?
Just a verbal yes. Let's move on with a plan to sell the property so I can get moving on this and
You'll
get
still
back.
have to vote to sell it eventually.
Yes.
Right, but I mean to move forward. We've been,
Do you want to put it in the form of, let's try to sell it with remediation or to sell it without remediation on that gray building?
That's council. Personally, I don't want to tackle the remediation because the building, not only does it have the issues that it has, but the water department's actually outgrown that building. It's not conducive to what they do. They can't keep all their equipment in there. That building is chopped all to pieces and, you go into one different area and you can only fit so much in that area. The garage doors need to be replaced. The windows need to be replaced. The heating needs to be replaced. The floors are cracked in it. The water comes in like crazy. Personally, what I foresee is somebody buying these properties to tear that building down and do something different with it. That's what I think is going to happen. But, if council directs me to get prices on remodeling that building, I'll absolutely do that.
there's no point to me. To me, sell it as it is. And if somebody wants to fix it up for whatever they want to do with it or whatever, let them. But it's going to cost too much and there's no point to
Now, I have
that.
to say, I have to check some legal things through Joe to make sure that we can sell it unremediated. I don't know that for sure, so.
Art, in addition, Art had come up with a really clever idea about perhaps applying for the grant money that was out for buildings.
Oh, yeah, the other thing is,
This is kind
in
of
order,
cool.
maybe to make it more attractive, we put this on the list of the brownfield site demolition list, and they demolish it for us.
There's still money for that?
Yeah, it just opened back up. I'm
Oh,
working
okay.
on, right now, getting him some others around the village, but that's
Oh,
an option.
right.
I mean, I want to talk to the township first, but
Yeah.
all I needed from you is to go ahead and let's figure out how we're going to get rid of the property. So if you're okay with that, then I'm gonna move forward with that, and I'll bring it back to you guys as soon as I can.
And I would just add again that being somebody who's been looking at this for almost 2 years now, my opinion, if it's worth anything, is go ahead, Art, let's get moving on this. This is
Absolutely.
overdue for the employees, for the village, for everybody. So
So we have two that are in favor of this down the way. What about the rest of you?
No, I agree.
Mhm.
I agree. We want to meet tomorrow at 9.
Okay.
Is that all right with you?
Yep.
So you'll know more from that end of it, but yeah.
the same way?
I'm good with it. Do whatever we need to do.
If any of you want to go out and see that building, I'm sure Art can see that you get out there and look at it.
I'll
too.
open the door while you
No,
go.
I
in.
just say, don't go in.
Just don't let him lock the door behind you. Okay, so does that give you enough direction?
Yep,
Art?
that's good. That's what I needed.
Okay. Let's go to our roundtable discussion. Nancy, I'll start with you.
Okay, first off, since Chris came, if this is a problem, Art and I have talked about, I've talked about it with a couple of others on council. And I'm not sure where to start with this. I guess I need to ask Joe. Joe, you know, what kind of things can we do? I mean, I know you can trap them and then you either have to let them go on the same property, which makes no sense, or you humanely euthanize them. Can the village do that? I mean, this is a village problem. It's all over this part of town. And it's going to be all over town pretty soon. A lot of the raccoons are living in the sewers. And that's our responsibility. Been in contact with somebody local who is willing to do it. I don't know if we can do a contract with somebody. I mean, what are our options?
So in response, in fairness, Nancy raised this question with staff and Art reached out to me the other day. I have to look at it in more detail, but what I can tell you is we can't shoot them because we have ordinances that prohibit the discharge of firearms in the village. However, we can trap them. The only question I had, and I need to research it, is whether or not, I believe they were raccoons and groundhogs, you said, are the
Yes.
problems, is whether or not under the ORC definition, they're considered wild game. And I believe they probably are. This issue has come up, as you'll recall, with coyotes in other communities where and yes, you can hire, assuming that they meet that definition, you can hire a company to come in and help control the population of that particular animal.
And they can trap them and then they can take them out of the village and,
They'll follow what the ORC requires as far as relocating or disposing of the animals.
can the village pay for that? Or?
Yes, the short answer is yes, and other communities have done that when it comes to coyotes. That's the one that is the most common. So I'm going to tell you that assuming that they meet the definition, you could decide that that's something you want to do as a village. We would probably want to put in place a policy that would define where we're going to do it and how we're going to do it. And to the extent we're trying to get it off private property, it's slightly different. We can definitely do it in parks, roadways, you've mentioned sewers. When it comes to private property, though, we would need to look at how we could control that. That's a little more challenging. We would need the consent of the property owner and we need a release. So I could work with them on that. But as far as parks, common areas, roads, things like that, yes, we can set traps in ways that allure them from private property to those
Right.
areas.
Hog bait's good, I hear. I've learned a lot about this.
So yeah, that's something I will look at and maybe at the next meeting, give you a little more detail.
Okay, yeah, we don't want to wait too long
Yeah.
because I think when's their breeding period? Is it February, Chris?
That's when they're born, right? So
They're born in, I don't know what the gestation.
Most
period
important
is.
thing will probably be finding someone that can do it. And then what will the cost be? That's a council decision.
Do they need to hold a license through Ohio to do it?
I will look at that, but obviously I would encourage them to. I wouldn't want to hire someone that didn't because of liability issues.
You know, when I reached out to ODNR, they gave me a list of people that they approved.
Right,
Yeah.
but they're gonna cost $300
I'm sure.
a piece
Yeah,
or more.
I mean, we're gonna,
Where
there's
you
an
can-
expense involved because this is a liability.
Right. But I do know that in hypothetical discussions, we might be able to do it for $140 an animal, but we're gonna have to decide what our requirements are for them. But like I say, if we don't do something, they're gonna be all over town. It is really, really bad.
Already bad on this side of town.
Yeah.
They're bad.
Well, Chris, didn't you say one night you saw like 22 and one night 30?
Is that
Yeah.
30 raccoons? Is that what you're saying? Groundhog.
They're everywhere. They're everywhere.
It's really bad.
Especially the corner of Third and South Main, there's at least 5 of them in the sewer there.
Yeah, I think a lot of them are living in the sewers and, I mean, we can't put traps down the sewers.
They're in
You
the
can't-
sewers, and they're also in the tiles under people's driveways. You drive on the side of town, they're
Yeah.
sticking there, they're everywhere. I mean, I've lived here now since 2007. I've maybe seen one in the whole time we lived here. I can go outside in the morning, 6 or 7 of them will come under my car, over my feet, and take off down the alley. Or run over and get in the sewer, go down the storm sewer off of State Street.
But, yeah, if you would look into that, because I think this is something we don't want to wait for. I think the sooner it's taken care of, the sooner it'll be under control, because it's going to get out of control real quick. I don't know that any of them have been found to have rabies in this area. They usually check them all over Ohio, and I don't think there have been any in this area reported, but it's a concern to a lot of people, so,
Anything else, Nancy?
oh, yeah. And this is totally out of the blue, so I apologize, Art. Have we heard anything about the electrical out at the golf course? Doing the annexations brought that up to mind. Is that still in the PUCO?
Oh, yeah, no, I actually was gonna talk to him after this thing. Duke's attorneys, when we left this conversation last year, the attorneys were supposed to reach out to him. They were supposed to get the package ready. I've reached out to them several times. I know we talked about it a few months ago. I was gonna ask him if he could get a hold of them again. That's where it is. It's in legal hands right now. We're just waiting on the legal side.
So it's Joe's fault. Is that what you're saying?
No, Duke's attorneys. That's who left it. There was 2 attorneys here, and they said they would get it all written up, but they have not followed through with that.
Okay. There is, for those on the CDC committee, we talked about this and there was a discussion in the meeting before. The LWCF grant is pretty big grant from the Land and Water Conservation Fund that's run by the ODNR. And they it used to be every other year. I hadn't thought about it this year because it's every other year, but at some point in the last 2 years, they decided to offer it every year. So the deadline this year is November 1st. So we talked about playground equipment. We've gotten a lot of donations for playground equipment. The basketball courts have got to be redone. So anyway, I would like permission to do the LWCF grant for playground equipment and for the basketball court. My part's easy because it's just a lot of text and a lot of score sections in that. Art's part will be harder, helping me come up with cost and all of that. But anyway, I didn't want to start on it until I had permission from council.
What kind of a matching grant is it?
It's a 50% matching.
Up to how much is the top you could request? Do you know yet?
I think it's $500,000.
I don't think we want that much.
I don't think we don't want to come up with $2.5 million.
Okay, council, Nancy has posed a question of whether to allow her to apply for grants for the LWCF.
And I would just to add, when we were looking at it in CDC meeting, when you had time to talk about it more, we were pretty encouraging when saying it'd be great if Nancy went forward from the committee level. Just throwing it out there.
You know, there's never any guarantee, but all it's costing is my time and Art's time. His time's a lot more valuable than mine.
Any questions for Nancy in regard to this? Any opposition to it? Then I think we can go ahead with an assent vote that you could go ahead and
Okay.
start that process.
The last thing I have is the Georgetown Fire and EMS, once again, is going to sponsor the straw bale decorating contest. If you remember last year, A lot of the businesses, we started around the square and then, we'll move up Main or down Main Street, depending how many we get. And it's a chance to bring a little fall flavor to the village. And it's also a chance for us to show off during the fair and the fair parade and show people, that Georgetown is doing things and looks good. And so anyway, that'll be coming up soon and you will be seeing it on Facebook. We'll be passing out flyers to the businesses. We hope that a lot more businesses participate. And the flyers will tell all about that. I don't want to go into the dates and all of that kind of stuff, but I wanted people to know that they're coming. And hopefully all the businesses will participate. You don't have to be on the square. The bales will be on the square, but you can be anywhere in town. And they'll be put up, on Main Street, and that's during the parade and everything. As people are coming in, they'll be able to see them. So watch Facebook for that.
Delbert, I think you had a comment about groundhogs. Did you want to make any comment?
About what?
Groundhogs?
At one time when I was younger, I used to trap a lot, and the golf courses downtown would ask me to trap boxes to get a town screen. So what I'm thinking is, if you waited till this fall, you could probably let hunters or trappers trap these coons for no cost.
Maybe.
I don't think anybody traps coons anymore, do they?
Well, it depends on what fur price is, but if there's, if you could get a bunch of them, that's different than getting one here and there.
Mm-hmm.
But they might be interested. I mean, there's some guys that are still good at that.
How do we get a hold of those people to know where to?
There's a girl named Diane Hitt down in Hammersville. She'd probably do it. She just loves trapping.
Yeah.
And she would know other
That's her.
people.
See whether we
It'd be a
can.
little more cost-effective.
Yeah, we can look into that. Okay.
And just as a follow-up to Delbert's comments, it does look like both raccoons and groundhogs do meet the definition of wild game in Ohio. And to your point, if you're not a licensed wild animal control operator in Ohio, you can't charge a fee. And it also requires that if we wanted to do it on the property of others, we would simply need to obtain their written permission. So to that point, Councilmember Montgomery's idea, we would need residents that are interested in allowing us to come onto their land to give us some kind of a written consent to do it. And we could trap them. And if that is the policy of council, we can draft legislation to allow that to happen.
But it has to be a licensed.
Under the ORC, if they're going to charge a fee or go onto the land of another and do it, they have to be a licensed.
Trappers that sell the fur.
Yeah, they call them commercial nuisance wild animal control operator.
Eat groundhogs and raccoon, Delbert?
I eat them,
Okay, just checking.
Just checking, huh?
not that many.
Okay, Jeremy, do you have anything for council?
I'm finished.
Okay. I do have two quick things. The first thing is I would like to, a huge thank you to Brown County Sheriff and safety officers across the county. I don't know if you guys saw, there was a fairly large bust of problematic materials flowing through the county that was many departments were involved. And I haven't checked with Chief Freeland on this, but I would bet that if you were to ask what percentage of crimes in Georgetown, some way directly or indirectly are involved with illegal drugs, I'm thinking it's a fairly high percentage. So when the sheriff's department and I think it was Ripley and Sardinia and all this, when they're able to do things like this, it's really going to help us out. And so thank you guys very much for taking on a fairly dangerous job and doing it successfully. Is there anyone that I would thank out of Georgetown Police Department on that, Chief? Or is there?
I was looking up the trapper whenever you started that conversation.
Sorry.
Ripley and Sardinia.
Yeah, Ripley and Sardinia. There was a fairly large bust this week or at the end of last week in Brown County. And I had heard about the sheriff's office and,
The task force, they were involved.
yeah,
We don't currently have anybody on the task force, but
right.
I can't really divulge a whole lot, but, I think we'll be able to play off of some of that. Luckily.
I wanted to say thank you to as many people specifically as I could, but
Yeah.
I understand. So,
I believe- I'm trying to think if the FBI was involved in that or not. I know they were involved in some other things last week, but I don't know if they were directly involved in that one or not.
It was Ripley, Sardinia, was it Mount Orabron?
Yeah.
It was basically 32 and 52, I think,
well, it's better to say
this time.
not, it's better to say not too much than to say too much in a situation like this. So, yeah. And the second thing I have is during the utilities meeting, this is something for the general public, but also something specifically for council. I don't know how many times I've said it, but I firmly believe at this time we have landing gear down, flaps down, the gas aggregation thing. We're going to land this real soon, and it's gonna come together. We were almost able to pull it off tonight, but then there was some issues with getting some information from Duke that is now begotten. So I have the following information for everyone here. The next council meeting on the 24th of August, Jay Sell from Aspen Energy will be here in person to ask for final approval of what he's going to talk about and what I'm going to describe right here. And that we have now, he has locked in a provider in Constellation Energy. If anybody out there would like to look them up, that's the people we're going to be working with most immediately to be our provider. Assuming that we have a full council approval, council will be asked to approve of Mr. Sell's proposition on the 24th. Don't do that. If that happens, okay, this is fantastic. If that happens, we will be able to start gas aggregation at the new prices on September 21st. And that will all be coming to you in your bills at that point in time. However, Mr. Sell wanted to remind people that it is an opt-out program. There will be 30 days, I believe you said, Art, for people to opt out. A simple phone call or an email. So the point is if we approve it on the 24th, you have a month after that before it begins. So if you can check out the rates and make your decisions there. So we're looking at that for next meeting for council members as well. I will also say I'm switching over from informational to sales. The recent average of cost for cubic foot for natural gas was 75 cents a cubic foot. And under the current, as of today's situation with Constellation Energy, it was looking at 65 cents a square foot. So you're looking at saving about 13% off the get-go, and this is not even the worst time of year. Winter is clearly, a time when prices can go up. So looks to be a good start. If you have any questions, please email me or contact me or call me or whatever. But we'll look for that next council meeting.
I know
And
the first question I'll get.
Yeah.
When will they receive information so that they can opt out?
okay, so the first answer to that question is in Mr. Sell's presentation on the 24th. From that point on, we have to, every person is required to be contacted. And I believe every person required to be contacted by mail that will have
Okay.
all of that in there. But like I say, you don't have to you have to wait till after the 24th, but if you know what you want to do and you don't want to wait, you can contact me and I can walk you through things if you're that eager to
Okay,
do things. Yeah, for sure.
thank you.
Other questions you're predicting?
No.
Okay. Anybody else predicting questions?
Just to hit on it, there was a deadline. That's why the 24th was important to get it out there, because within a few weeks is when he could get his in together.
Correct. If it's not obvious, if it's not like something you're aware of, Mr. Zell is juggling Duke Energy and Columbus, and there are timelines and all that kind of stuff. And Kelly, you're right. We want to move now while we can to lock these things in. Yes.
Is there any kind of supply line? I can't think what they call it because I've never dealt with it. From Duke that'll go on these bills? Any kind of fee?
He never indicated that at
Okay.
all, ever.
I never heard anything about that.
Okay.
I'm going to look that up. I'm going to ask him that, but that is never, and Jay's been really good about letting us know the nuts and bolts of things. So I'd be surprised if it was and we haven't heard about it, but I will look it up and I'll ask him for sure.
Cost recovery fees.
Oh. Which does remind me, opt-in, opt-out is always fee-free. You could literally opt-in, opt-out every other month all year long, and you never get charged for that, and it's totally legal.
You don't
to do
get
that.
charged by them, but you might get charged by Duke.
I do not know Duke's policies. I cannot
Right.
say to that for sure, but definitely not from Aspen Energy. Yeah. Cool. Other questions or comments? Then this guy is done. Thank you very much.
California.
The only thing that I wanted to bring up is the water meter damage fee that was discussed on Facebook. I know in talking with Jeremy, that's something that's going to be discussed in the utilities meeting, just to make sure that we further clarify the language. I know there were a lot of comments on Facebook about meters being in other people's yards and inside of or in the middle of their driveway, and how does that work if they run over one? So I know there's a strong common sense approach that goes behind that legislation, but I do think we owe it to the public to clear that up for them and just make sure that it reads smoothly for them. So I know that's going to go, something that's going to go in front of the utilities meeting. So that's all I have.
Okay, Kelly Campbell, do you have anything for council? Okay, Bink?
Just another, just thank you to everyone who was involved with National Night Out. I know the Courthouse Square Association, Jesse Green, all the people who were there. And we've had a lot of really great things going on in the community lately with the Beer Fest. Then we've had the splash pad that the fire department put on. And then there was a soccer camp at the park a couple of weeks ago. And I think that some of the girls from the soccer team came out and participated in that, and they did a great job. I know my daughter had a great time. And, so I appreciate that. We got some good things going on here. That's all I have.
Art, do you have anything more for council? Solicitor Braun?
I have nothing else.
I have nothing either. Our upcoming meetings, we have a budget committee meeting on Monday, August the 21st at 4 p.m. Human Resources, August 22nd at 11 a.m. Budget Committee meeting Thursday, August 24th at 6 p.m. A regular council meeting Thursday, August 24th at 7 p.m. And we also have a utilities meeting on,
CDC.
or CDC, I'm sorry, CDC meeting on August 24th at 5 p.m. So is there anything that needs to be brought up before council at this time? If there is nothing else, we would entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
By Kelly, do we have a second?
Second.
Okay, we have a second by Jeremy. All in favor signify aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Very good. Meeting adjourned.